Have you heard of Filippo Reef? Probably not, because neither did I, because it technically doesn't exist. Filippo Reef is a reef that's supposed to be in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, but it probably doesn't actually exist. Now, despite having been reported to be a real thing since the 1880s, and again included in a National Geographic atlas, nobody has actually confirmed the existence of this reef. It probably does not actually exist, because nobody's been able to definitively go to or find this reef. So the Filippo Reef is classified as a phantom island, which is a very interesting thing that happens. So a phantom island is a location, almost always an island, occasionally a reef, like in the case of the Filippo Reef, that despite being recorded on maps and in journals and logs and stuff, doesn't actually exist. It's not there. It's not a thing. Essentially, it's just a location that was put on a map, but isn't actually geographically there. This can be due to a number of reasons. Largely, it's just a mistake. A already existing island being identified as something else, the coordinates being written down wrong. There's just many errors that can contribute to the existence of a phantom island. This was largely the case in more old-time, antique, age of exploration maps and things. So again, a number of these phantom islands can be attributed to navigation errors, where they think they're in one place, they see an island, they write it down, but they're actually in a different place, and that island is well established and well known, but not at the location that they said it was, so people think that it's an entirely new island, when in reality it's just a pre-existing, well-known island that was just put in the wrong spot, so they thought it was a new one. There can also be the case of misidentification, where something like this happened for icebergs. People see a thing in the distance, they think it's an island, they record it, when in reality it's just a very large iceberg or something of the sort. And then sometimes they're put there on purpose, when the map makers know for a fact that this is not a real thing, but they put it on there anyway. Now, if you've read John Green's book, Paper Towns, you should be familiar with this concept. It's kind of the same thing as a paper town, where cartographers, in order to avoid plagiarism, will put a town, or in this case an island, on a map that doesn't actually exist, to identify when their maps have been plagiarized. So by inventing an island, when you see that island appear in other maps that aren't your own, you can be like, hey, no, you stole that from me because I invented that island, and that island doesn't actually exist. You plagiarized it. Get got. Now, phantom islands, when they get noticed to be phantom islands instead of real places, they go through the process of undiscovery, which is very neat, when basically people notice, hey, this thing that is supposed to be right here isn't actually right here. It doesn't exist. Let's fix that. So the phantom island is noted to be a phantom island, and basically people are like, this doesn't exist, let's record that and get it off of the official maps, because it's not a real thing. Now, phantom islands are a different thing than lost lands, which is also a very fascinating happening. Phantom islands are places that were recorded to exist but don't actually. Lost lands are places that did exist but through circumstances have been lost. Now, lost lands refer to actual real places, not like Atlantis or Mu or Lemuria. Those didn't exist. Those are purely mythological. Lost lands are a different thing about places that actually existed, so don't be in the comments talking about Atlantis and that shit. Actual lost lands, if anything, are more interesting than the mythical lost lands. So they are places that did exist, but due to different circumstances have been lost to the world. Now, these circumstances are natural through different geologic processes. such as tectonic plates shifting and causing like them to go underneath the tectonic plates or just like sink down or erode into the sea. Happens when, for example, the glaciers melt, sea level rises, and a already low set in the ocean island is completely flooded and covered by the rising sea levels, and thus is fully submerged underwater. Or an earthquake causes the entire infrastructure to kind of crumble and just dissolve into the sea. Or perhaps again, plate tectonics cause things to shift. Maybe a giant tsunami comes and kind of brushes everything off and just leaves no trace. There's a ton of different ways in which a land can be lost. So both of these things are equally fascinating to me. A fake island that was reported to be real, or a real island that has been lost to the depths of the ocean. Either way, it's super fascinating, and I have been obsessed with this for like the past 3 days now.